The light class, truly the best class in the finals. Now, you're probably thinking to yourselves, Avixs, what are you talking about? The light class is crap. And yeah, I have seen that sentiment thrown around a lot in the finals community. Now, I'll preference this by saying that I by no means am an expert when it comes to the finals, and I still have a lot to learn when it comes to the game and how a lot of the different aspects of the game work. I've put in around 150 hours into the game, and I've only been playing it for the last 4 or 5 weeks so far. Yeah, I know, a little bit of a no life. Let's just say I got a little bit addicted to the game. But regardless, I think that the light class is able to provide an extremely valuable asset to your team if played correctly. The problem that a lot of people have with the light class, I've noticed, is that it's a really difficult class to master, and it's really easy to disregard its use just because of a couple of different drawbacks that come with the light class. One of the most obvious things that really hinders the light class is its extremely low health pool. Compared to the medium and the heavy, which have 250 and 350 HP respectively, the light class only has 150 hit points, which, to be honest with you, is not really that much. Compared to the other classes, it is basically a glass cannon. Sure, the M11 is able to put down some of the highest DPS in the game, and all of its guns overall are very powerful, very high DPS, and is able to put down a lot of damage in a short period of time. But if you don't have the health pool to be able to challenge a medium and a heavy head-on, then that damage means absolutely nothing. Of course, with this drop in health does come another massive benefit, and that is the mobility. Obviously, the light class being light means that it has extremely high speeds, as well as extremely high maneuverability in a lot of its abilities. For example, the grappling hook. It allows you to cover lots of ground, get on roofs, and get out of really dodgy situations if you are able to use it correctly. Same thing with the dash as well. The dash can be really useful in fights. If you feel that the medium or the heavy are able to get a lot of shots off you, then simply doing a dash left and right can be enough to throw their aim off and let you get that win. Now, it's really important to remember that when you're using the light class, you do play a very specific role in your team, and the light class is best suited when it's paired up with another medium and another heavy, as I've noticed in a lot of different games. Mediums do rely a lot on their abilities in order to become extremely versatile. For example, their jump pads allow them to be able to get onto roofs, as well as their zip lines, which also allow them to get from one place to another in a really short period of time. They also have things such as turrets, which allow them to play a more defensive role, and with the heavies, it's much the same story, with things like the dome shield and just regular shields. It makes them very useful in terms of defensive strategies. Mediums are also really good at medium to long ranges. The AKM and the SCAR are extremely exceptional at long ranges because they are able to hold their damage potential at those ranges. Compare that to something like the M11, which has an extremely high damage drop-off beyond a certain range. It can start to feel a little bit unfair for a lot of light players, especially since they already have to deal with that really low health pool. But if you're able to use the light's movement correctly and you're able to get behind the enemy, especially in flanking maneuvers, then you'll be able to find that the light class is absolutely unbeatable. Personally, when I'm playing a light, I like to take things a bit more cautiously. I don't run into battles, I don't try and go straight for the kill all the time. My favourite playstyle is to actually sit back and to be a bit more cautious, allowing the enemy to move up first before I make my move. When my teammates are defending a point, I find it very useful to actually not stick with them and to simply stick around their general area, especially if we're defending a cash out. Ultimately, what I like to do is I'll usually try to blow a couple of holes in a few walls using some of the nearby explosive barrels, and that allows me to be able to get a little bit of a sight line into the actual site. So if anybody tries to push it, I can use my increased mobility to be able to quickly get onto point, attack or kill whoever's trying to take the point, and then immediately leave the area before they're able to retaliate. That is honestly where the light excels, and it can actually be extremely useful in a lot of defensive situations. I've seen people that play lights and they don't seem to understand that lights can be really good when defending the cash out if played right. Personally, I like to use things like the Vanish Bomb, a gas grenade, and even a pyro grenade. I think it's a really good setup because the gas grenade will allow you to get people off the cash out as well as buy you enough time so you don't have to continuously stop them from taking it, which can be really useful if your teammates all go down and you need to buy some time for them to respawn, or if you're able to revive one of them, that's even better. Now, the Vanish Bomb, obviously, we all know what the Vanish Bomb is for. You get into your bad situation, or maybe you're pushing a point where you know there's going to be a lot of resistance, so you use the Vanish Bomb to go invisible so they won't be able to find you as easy and you'll be able to sneak past them. It doesn't always work, as if you've got a really good eye, you can spot it, but if you're really careful of how you use it, it can be extremely effective to get behind enemy lines and do that damage and then quickly leave the area. Now, let's say you end up in a bad situation. Your team has just gone down and the enemy is currently trying to take the cash out. Now, you as a light know that if you decide to take on that battle yourself, you are most certainly going to end up dead and you're going to have to wait for this 30-second respawn timer when you get a team wipe, which is really not ideal. So, what I like to do is, personally, I will move into the point as close as I can without letting the enemy know, usually using something like a Vanish Bomb. I'll throw a gas grenade onto the site to make sure that they're unable to take the cash out before immediately tipping out of the area to stop myself from getting killed. This is extremely valuable if your team goes down and you want them all to respawn, or if you're trying to res them in order to get some more team onto the point. The Pyro Grenade is also another extremely valuable tool. Let's say that you're trying to capture another point and one of their team had the smart idea of throwing a gas grenade onto the point, just like I described before. Well, easy counter. You can throw a Pyro Grenade onto it and simply watch the gas disintegrate, allowing you to quickly swoop in and take the cash out. Now, I wouldn't really recommend trying to take the cash out yourself as a light. It's best if you leave that to something like the medium or the heavy to take care of, since their hit pools will allow them to tank a few shots in case somebody manages to get into the room. Mainly, people like to focus on the person that's actually taking the cash out, so even if you do have a medium and a heavy defending you, they're not going to want to shoot them, they're going to want to shoot you, which can be very, very bad since, well, you don't exactly have a lot of hit points to work with as a light. Now, if you really think about it, it is pretty easy to understand why lights aren't that liked by a lot of people. That's a bit of a tongue twister. And it's mainly due to the fact that they're really difficult to play. They require you to have a certain level of knowledge about the maps, the layouts, positioning, as well as how you approach objectives and points. They do rely on a lot of movement after all, and so it can be extremely difficult for new players to be able to pick up a light and just go running. A lot of people I've noticed when they play lights is they'll play them more like a run and gun, which definitely can work if you know what you're doing, but a lot of the time new light players don't exactly know how to play the finals, and that can lead to a really bad situation of them constantly being killed because they don't know how to utilize the light's main purpose, which is to flank, outmaneuver, and outdamage anybody by getting behind them. After all, if you get up behind somebody and shoot them in the back, the chances are you've already won that fight. Not only that, but it can also be really useful when taking on single opponents, like a medium or even a heavy if you're really good. What I've noticed is throwing a pyro grenade at a heavy, but before going invisible and quickly dashing behind them, can be really, really effective. It throws them off, gets their health down, and allows you to be able to get a really easy kill, especially if you're really good at placing headshots. It can be quite hard to pull off, especially since most heavies like to stick with their other teammates, but since they are very slow, a lot of the time they end up getting stuck behind the rest of the group. So it can be very, very good to single out that heavy and take them out early on, as well as being able to alleviate a lot of pressure from your team, since heavies can be some of the most annoying classes to deal with, especially when pushing on to things like points or when trying to defend. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, but Avery, there's plenty of counters to the light class. The heavy has something called a grapple, which allows them to stop enemies in their tracks, pull them towards them, and if they have something like the flamethrower or a shotgun, that can be extremely devastating. Lights, because they're also very squishy, are very susceptible to very hard-hitting guns, such as the revolver, as well as the FAMAS, which is able to put down a lot of damage. But, once again, it all just comes down to how good you're able to use the movement. For example, how are they going to kill you if they don't know where you are? Using things like the Vanish Bomb can be really useful. Getting behind an enemy just simply doesn't give them enough time to react unless they're some absolute trigger-happy crack shot. And if you know how to play cautiously like I do, it can be really useful in trying to actually keep objectives even if you end up being the only one alive in your team. I think the best way to play Alights if you are trying to do it is pick your battles carefully and always be putting down some damage. Of course, that all changes once you start going against other lights, and honestly, most of the time, my biggest competition when playing as a light is actually just other lights. Or heavies, but, well, they're heavies, so that sort of makes sense. When I'm playing as a light and I see another team also has a light, or even a few lights, it can be quite terrifying for me, because a lot of those tactics that I said before about hitting and running and not actually sticking around in one thing, using your mobility to your advantage, that no longer applies when you're fighting another light, because they also have that same mobility and the ability to outmaneuver you and to chase you if you decide to run away from their battle. That means that if you're fighting another light, it's really good if, well, you just have better aim. And honestly, most of the time, I don't. A lot of lights I've noticed are extremely good at the game, and it makes a lot of sense. If you have the aim and you have the map knowledge as well as the overall game sense, lights just become a no-brainer. I usually play with a group of friends that primarily plays as lights, and yeah, it can be a bit of a struggle for all of us since, well, every one of us is playing a light. It means that when we get onto a defensive position and finally need to actually stop people from getting the cash out, it can be a little bit difficult for us. We constantly have to be on the move, constantly having to be checking our backs and making sure that we don't get too far away from the point trying to kill other people because we're a little bit kill hungry. But overall, in the last month or two of playing this game, I've found that the light has gotten me more kills, more wins, and just overall more success than any other playstyle in the entire game. Now, it could just be me, it could be my bias towards more fast-paced shooters, but I feel that overall, the light is just one of the best classes in the game if you know how to play it right. Of course, that doesn't mean that the other classes are bad by any means. I mean, the medium and the heavies have their own niche that are honestly really good. But I think it's really cool that the light class is able to excel in all of these different ways, and if you're really good, it can be one of the best classes in the game. Of course, that's just my opinion, and if you feel differently, then honestly, that's really good to hear. I really like the finals because it doesn't actually feel like anything is particularly better than the other. It really does feel like one of the most well-balanced games that I've played in a really long time. I mean, sure, there are some cheesy moments, and yeah, some of the weapons can be quite a pain in the ass to deal with, but to be honest with you, there isn't anything in this game that I haven't been able to find at least one counter for. And that's what I think makes the finals such a really fun game, and honestly, that doesn't matter what you play. Medium, light, heavy, if you know what you're playing and you know your class well, I think that any of your classes can really excel. But that was just a short video on why I personally think the light class is the best class in the game. And yeah, if you want to join me in the light crusade, then pick up that sword, that M11 or whatever crazy gun you want to pick. As long as it's not the double barrel, I don't care. Seriously, that gun is AIDS. Don't use it. But yeah, if you really enjoyed this video, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for sitting through my little rant about why I think the light class is the best class in the game. If you'd like to see more, make sure to hit a subscribe, a like, and a comment. It really means a lot. But yeah, I'll catch you another time. Ka kite.